Today is a thrilling day to unpack the unprecedented chaos unfolding on screen, as the latest twists have left audiences entirely breathless. Let us jump right into the heart-stopping drama that is tearing a legacy apart. The fashion world of Los Angeles has always been a battlefield, but the recent cataclysmic shift has transformed corporate rivalry into a devastating family tragedy. Following the highly publicized and shocking defection of Hope Logan Spencer to Katie's rival fashion house, the emotional toll has reached an agonizing peak. Viewers recently witnessed the harrowing moment when Hope, entirely overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of her mother's rejection, suffered a severe panic attack and collapsed unconscious on the cold floor of the Logan Gallery. Liam Spencer's frantic efforts to revive his wife painted a picture of absolute despair, showcasing a woman whose psychological endurance had been stretched far beyond its breaking point. Hope's physical collapse was merely the external manifestation of a deeply fractured soul, shattered by Brooke Logan Forrester's ruthless eviction of her daughter and son-in-law from the cabin on the Logan estate. However, Brooke's initial retaliation, the harsh words, the disownment, and the physical eviction was only the prelude to a much darker, far more sinister chapter in this familial warfare. Brooke Logan Forrester, a matriarch who has historically fought tooth and nail for her family's unity, has now descended into an unrecognizable state of vindictive fury. In her mind, Hope has not merely changed employers. She has committed the ultimate sin of betrayal, aligning herself with Katie Logan in a move that Brooke perceives as a direct, calculated attack on her own maternal authority. Brooke's inability to accept this reality has warped her maternal instincts into something deeply toxic and dangerous. She no longer sees Hope as an independent adult making a career choice, but rather as a misguided child who has been stolen by an enemy, requiring drastic, extreme measures to be saved from her own decisions. Driven by this twisted sense of righteousness, Brooke has crossed a line that no one in the Forrester, Logan, or Spencer families could have ever anticipated. In a move that shifts the storyline from daytime drama to a chilling psychological thriller, Brooke orchestrates a horrifyingly desperate act. Under the guise of a loving grandmother simply helping out her family, Brooke arrives at Beth's school. Utilizing her familiar face and the inherent trust placed in her by the school staff and her granddaughter, she secretly picks up Beth. There is no struggle, no immediate alarm, just the quiet, chilling abduction of a child by her own flesh and blood. Brooke then transports Beth to a heavily guarded, secret location, completely off the grid and away from the prying eyes of the Spencer and Forrester empires. The true horror of Brooke's actions is fully realized when she delivers a chilling, non-negotiable ultimatum to her emotionally fragile daughter. Brooke sends a message that strikes at the very core of Hope's existence. Leave Logan immediately or never see your child again. This is not a mere threat born of momentary anger. It is a calculated, cold-blooded act of extortion. Brooke is leveraging the most precious thing in Hope's life, her daughter, to force submission and compliance. The sheer cruelty of this demand is unfathomable, completely obliterating the image of Brooke as a protective, loving mother and replacing it with the terrifying visage of a ruthless captor willing to destroy her daughter's sanity to win a corporate and personal war. Upon receiving this horrific ultimatum, Hope's fragile mental state shatters entirely. The woman, who was already recovering from a severe, stress-induced physical collapse, is now thrust into a living nightmare. The realization that her own mother, the woman who raised her, protected her, and loved her, has weaponized her child against her is a betrayal so profound that it defies comprehension. Hope is plunged into an abyss of absolute despair, paralyzed by the agonizing choice before her. Surrendering her career at Logan means giving up her independence, her creative autonomy, and succumbing to an abuser's demands. But fighting back means risking the permanent loss of her daughter. Hope's complete breakdown is a visceral, heartbreaking display of a mother's worst terror realized at the hands of her own family. While Hope is incapacitated by grief and terror, Liam Spencer transitions from a supportive, comforting husband into a frantic, desperate father on a warpath. The realization that Beth is missing and that Brooke is the architect of this nightmare sends Liam into a state of absolute panic. He is a man who has fought countless battles to protect his family, but this enemy is deeply entrenched within their own inner circle. Liam frantically searches every known location, tearing through Los Angeles, mobilizing the vast resources of the Spencer Empire, and desperately trying to trace Brooke's movements. His frantic search is fueled by a volatile mixture of blinding rage and paralyzing fear, knowing that Brooke's current and hinged state makes her unpredictable and incredibly dangerous. This catastrophic escalation does not merely destroy the emotional bonds within the Logan family. It plunges Brooke Logan Forrester into severe, inescapable legal jeopardy. What Brooke views as a necessary intervention to save her daughter is, in the eyes of the law, custodial interference and kidnapping felony offenses carrying severe penal consequences. Brooke has essentially declared war not just on Hope and Liam, but on the legal system itself. The ramifications of this act are monumental. The once revered matriarch of the Logan family is now a fugitive from justice, having committed a crime that threatens to end with her behind bars, permanently destroying her reputation, her legacy, and her freedom. As the chaotic reality of Brooke's actions comes to light, Rich Forrester is thrust into an impossible, soul-crushing dilemma. Rich has historically stood by Brooke through countless scandals, defending her honor and supporting her through her darkest moments. He initially shared her anger over Hope's defection to Logan, viewing it as a betrayal of Forrester creations. However, Brooke's abduction of Beth crosses every moral, ethical, and legal boundary Rich possesses. He is now forced to stand at a grim crossroads, facing a choice between the love of his life and the fundamental principles of justice. Does he use his immense power and influence to cover up his wife's criminal actions, becoming an accessory to kidnapping? Or does he turn the woman he loves over to the authorities to ensure a child is returned to her rightful parents? Rich's internal conflict is a masterclass in emotional torture. He watches the woman he has loved for decades transform into someone he no longer recognizes as a desperate, dangerous individual willing to inflict unspeakable trauma on her own daughter. The Forrester patriarch is torn between his instinct to protect his wife from the severe consequences of her actions and his moral obligation to Hope, Liam, and innocent little Beth. Every second he hesitates, the danger to Beth increases, and the legal net tightens around Brooke. Rich's agonizing deliberation adds a layer of profound tragedy to the unfolding drama, as he realizes that no matter what choice he makes, his family will be irrevocably shattered by the fallout. Just when it seems the situation cannot possibly become more dire, Brooke escalates her psychological warfare to a terrifying new extreme. Aware that the walls are closing in and that Liam's frantic search coupled with potential police involvement might soon uncover her secret location, Brooke issues a final, devastating threat. If Hope does not publicly resign from Logan and sever all ties with Katie immediately, Brooke vows to take Beth abroad forever. She threatens to utilize her vast resources, hidden connections, and wealth to flee the country, disappearing into international obscurity where the American legal system and the Spencer Empire cannot reach them. This threat of permanent exile transforms a local kidnapping into an international crisis. Brooke's threat to take Beth overseas is the ultimate weapon of mass destruction in this family war. It is a declaration that she is willing to completely uproot a child's life, severing Beth from her parents, her home, and her entire world, simply to win a battle of egos and control. This is the point of absolute no return for Brooke Logan Forrester. Any lingering sympathy or understanding that audiences might have held for a heartbroken mother is instantly incinerated by the sheer malice and cruelty of this threat. Brooke has cemented her position as the ultimate antagonist in this narrative, a villain born not from greed or malice, but from a deeply corrupted, possessive love that seeks to destroy what it cannot control. For Hope Logan Spencer, the weight of this international threat is a crushing, suffocating burden. The psychological torment of knowing her mother is capable of such an atrocity leaves Hope questioning her entire reality. How does one negotiate with a terrorist who shares their DNA? Hope is faced with the agonizing reality that capitulating to Brooke's demands might save Beth in the short term. But it would validate Brooke's insane actions, effectively placing Hope and Beth under Brooke's tyrannical control for the rest of their lives. Conversely, defying Brooke and calling her bluff risks the unthinkable, waking up to find that Beth has been smuggled across international borders, lost to her forever in a foreign land. The collateral damage of Brooke's unhinged actions extends far beyond Hope, Liam, and Beth. The entire Logan family legacy, once built on sisterhood, loyalty, and fierce mutual support, is now a smoldering ruin. Katie Logan, who initially viewed the hiring of Hope as a brilliant corporate victory, must now watch in horror as her business maneuver triggers the complete destruction of her niece's life. The Logan sisters are now locked in a war of mutually assured destruction, with Brooke's actions proving that she values absolute control over the fundamental bonds of family. The name Logan, once synonymous with resilience and love, is now tainted by extortion, kidnapping, and unforgivable betrayal that will echo through generations. As the clock ticks down on Brooke's horrific ultimatum, the tension reaches an absolute boiling point. Liam is racing against time, utilizing every resource at his disposal to track down the secret location before Brooke can execute her threat to flee the country. Ridge is paralyzed by his impossible choice, knowing that his next move will define the rest of his life and the legacy of the Forrester name. And Hope remains trapped in a purgatory of unimaginable grief and fear, forced to decide whether to sacrifice her hard-won independence or risk losing her daughter forever. This unprecedented storyline has fundamentally altered the landscape of this dramatic universe, promising a climax that will leave permanent, unhealable scars on every character involved. The war between the Logans, Spencers, and Forresters has never been more personal, more dangerous, or more utterly devastating.